Nama Om Vishnu Bhakti Vedanta Cintamani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachaline. Nivasesha Sunyavari Pashtatara Satanini. Magana Tamarandasya Ganandana Salakaya Chakshunitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Wow, I can see Mihai's with us. He's got an amazing backdrop. I can see he's driving as well. He's basically steering wheel and the seatbelt on. Make sure you keep your eyes on the road, Mihai Prabhu. Okay, so let's get straight into it, as they say. Last week we spoke about hearing bhava and ecstasy. So now all we can do is hear. We may not be able to fully appreciate what we're hearing, but let's hear at least what it is like for those who are at the stage of prema, for those who love Krishna. What happens when they're hearing about Krishna?
Murli Prabhu, is it chapter 29?
Yes, chapter 29, correct.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Chapter 29, yeah. So this won't take, in one sense, it won't take so long because prema, as Rupa Goswami, and he doesn't spend so much time in the beginning of Nectar Devotion speaking about the details of prema there, because prema is just the full manifestation of bhava, the full blossom flower of bhava, which has already been spoken of. But anyway, there are some extra what's to say, you could say extra wonderful things to hear about hearing at prema. Again, if you have any questions, you can ask. You can always use the chat as well. We don't tend to use that so much, but anyone who's not in a position to unmute, you can always type in a chat. And I've got my eyes on the chat. If a little red button comes up on that, I'll be able to see. Now, the divine attachment, to Krishna, the budding stage, which is bhava, it's a budding stage. Then it blossoms. Try and think of when you see a bud. Then you could. Some of you have got back gardens, I'm sure. You're privileged to have a back garden. And in the summer, you may have flowers. And then, so the next time you're walking, you see a flower in the spring when it's budding, and the flower and the scent's coming out. That's, just look at that as prema. Before that stage is bhava. And if you we could like the seed as well, and that's where the seed of bhakti is planted by the guru, so the spiritual master. So now at this stage of prema, chanting about Krishna, these devotees, what are they absorbed in within their mind? Basically, they're absorbed in a multitude of services, but in their original forms. Okay, so their Sarup Siddhi, I could say their Stahi Bhava, has become revealed. So when they're chanting the holy names of the Lord, they're absorbed in seva, or when they hear, they're absorbed in a multitude of services. And I think we touched on this a little bit just recently. In the following from Bhakti Rasmrita Sindhu, the Nectar of Devotion, the next book which Rupa Goswami writes as a follow-up is called Ujvala Nilamani. Remember, I was trying to remember that book last week, and it's here, Ujvala Nilamani, where he describes mainly about the conjugal rasa. So, for example, the devotee at prema, this is what internally they are absorbed in. So there's these 16 aspects of service. So we ready for this to hear them? The first service of the Gopis, so say someone's absorbed in Madhurya Ras, the first service of the Gopis is to hear and chant the glories of both the Nayaka, which is Krishna, the hero, and the Nayika, the Nayaka and Nayika, two new words, if you're not familiar with them. So the heroine is Radharani. The hero is, of course, Krishna, and the heroine is Radharani. This is the original loving couple, the original Romeo and Juliet, which has actually no comparison.
Well studied.
Can't comparison, you can't compare it at all. But anyway, I did, so the first one is they will chant their glories, and as we read in Venu Gita and you read in Krishna book, that's what the Gopis are doing. They're always chanting about the glories of Radha and Krishna. Now the next service, and that's a service, the next service or another service is they help to create a situation in which Radha and Krishna are attracted, and vice versa, that Radha is attracted to Krishna and Krishna is attracted to. Now, of course, they are already attracted. That's what I'm saying. But they arrange different leelas and pastimes. Yeah. As we heard, sometimes Radharani may be in what's called a man. She has, believe it or not, an adversity to her hero Krishna for one reason or another. So they will arrange in such a way that the hero and the heroine will again be attracted, will be together. So the third one is they will then induce them to approach one another. So Radharani, so this is the meditation of these prema bhaktas. Yeah. So Radharani, sometimes when she approaches Krishna, she's overcome with shyness and she can't actually approach him. And sometimes that shyness is seen as an enemy. This was nicely, Indraduma Maharaj described this nicely. I think he described one video, I forget the exact title, but the teardrop. But Radharani, she finally comes before Krishna and she's so overcome with emotion and shy that she can't look up, and she looks down and tears come from her eyes. And then in one of her tears upon her feet, she actually sees it reflects Krishna's face in the tear. Very sweet. And then she gradually looks up. Now the Gopis are encouraging her in that way. So number 4, the fourth service is to offer Radharani to Krishna. Yeah. So sometimes they do that. They organize a swing. There's a swing pastimes that happen at noontime, and they will encourage Radharani to come and sit with Krishna on the swing. The 5th is to create a jovial atmosphere. Yeah, like as we read in Venu Gita, the Gopis, Radharani's friends, they're always chatting to Radharani about Krishna and helping her to to appease her separation from Krishna. But they create a jovial atmosphere. So sometimes there's great pastimes that involves lots of joking. Actually, there's so much joking exchanges when you read the pastimes in Vrindavan. I'm just reading the Mukta Charita at the moment by Rupa Goswami. And this is the Pearl Pastime. You know, this wonderful pastime where Krishna goes to ask for some pearls from the Gopis, and the Gopis ignore him. And then they kind of, they cut jokes on his behalf, accusing, we cannot give you, these are first class pearls. What's the point of giving you pearls? You're just going to put them on the cows and buffalo. We will not give you any pearls. So then Krishna, what he does, then Krishna gets some pearls from Mother Yasoda, and he plants them he kind of makes a plantation of pearls, and he plants the pearls. And lo and behold, the pearls grow into pearl trees. And all these hundreds of pearls come from the flowers of these pearl plants. So he collects all these pearls. And then the Gopis hear about this, and they try to do the same thing to try and outsmart Krishna. So they beg all the pearls from all their relatives, all their family members, literally all the pearls that's in the village, which is owned by the elders, and they plant them. And what comes up? Thorn bushes. And they milk in their pearl, and the Gopis are careful. They put a fence around, and they're milking the, or they're watering the plants, their pearl plants with ghee and milk, but then sticky plants come up, which is all full of thorns. So then the Gopis have to humble themselves, because their parents are now they're very dissatisfied because all their pearls in their treasury are gone. So then the Gopis have to go and humble themselves before Krishna. And then Krishna, it's such an elaborate discussion that they have with each other, where Krishna, he's sitting there and he's playing with pearls in his hand, and he's smiling with okay, so you're coming to me now, are you? Anyway, like that, Mukta Charita, it's by Rupa Goswami. I think in one of my Guru Maharaj's books, it's included there. Yeah, it's there. It's
lovely pastime, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's very, very sweet, but it's so much joking. There's so much joking between the Gopis and Krishna, and of course Madhu Mangal's there. Sometimes the jokes can become so detailed that it's difficult to follow it sometimes. Anyway, so that's one. So creating a jovial atmosphere. The 6 is to give them assurance of their meeting. They get separated, then the Gopis will pacify Radharani, and Krishna's Priya Sakanamas. They will pacify Krishna and arrange a meeting. The 8th is the 7th is to dress and decorate both Radha and Krishna. I'll just read through these now, otherwise it might take a whole hour, go over these. The 9th is to conceal. 8, sorry. Good, you don't want to miss anything. Number 8.
No.
The 8th is to cleverly inspire Radha and Krishna to express their minds. Yeah. So they're a bit apprehensive. So the Gopis, they're very expert in getting Radharani to reveal her mind, because sometimes she's very hesitant to actually do that. So, and the 10th.
You're missing out. Go to 9.
9, sorry. Sorry.
Wait.
The 9th is to conceal the faults of the heroine.
The thoughts.
The faults, as the so-called faults.
So
the heroine is Radharani. So I can't perhaps comment too much on that. There's a whole, let me think, the 9th is to conceal the so-called faults. I mean, there is no faults in Radharani. Yeah. Let's leave that one. The 10th is to cheat their respective husbands and relatives. Okay, so there's a whole episode that goes on in regards to hiding the love that Radha and Krishna share with each other from the elders, and the pastimes which they do to do that. It's quite wonderful. Yeah, and not always easy. So that's what the Gopis do. The 11th is to give instruction. Yeah, Lalita is often gives instruction to Radharani in approaching Krishna or not approaching Krishna, as the case may be. Yeah, and the 12th is to enable both Radha and Krishna to meet at the proper time. So there's a whole range of messages get sent, signs get sent, little signs, subtle signs of where they're going to meet. and the whole thing is arranged. Yeah. 13, to fan both the hero and the heroine. The 14th is to reproach the hero and the heroine. Sometimes you see that in the pastime, that sometimes the Gopis will heavily reproach Krishna for his daring to even touch or come near Radharani. Yeah, so it's all pastimes. The 15th is to send messages. Yeah, that's a big thing in Vrindavan. Indra Maharaj often mentions this, that the message is often sent through parrots. Yeah, they send messages coming back and forward. 16th finally is to protect the heroine, by various means. Okay, so anyway, that's this is what the prema bhaktis, this is what they are absorbed in, as an example in conjugal mellow. Yeah. Now, now this is very nicely explained here, that now this is within the devotee's mind, okay? But for such a devotee, it's not enough. A prema, it's not enough to be within the mind. And what actually this nice description that Maharaj gives here is that Radharani, she, one example here is that she takes Krishna by the hand and they come to where the devotee, this devotee who has love, is doing their bhajan. Yeah, so internally they're absorbed in, say, conjugal rasa, and they're doing engaged in these services that we just mentioned, but they got their eyes closed and it's all through the medium of Nam bhajan. Yeah. So then Radha and Krishna come. Radha brings Krishna, yeah, to where the devotee is doing bhajan. And what do? They watch for some time. No doubt tears are coming probably from devotees' eyes. They're watching as this devotee is engaged in their confidential service as within bhajan. Yeah. And now then to draw the attention, or to break the dissamadhi of this devotee, then Radha and Krishna and the whole pastimes just disappears from the devotee's mind. Gone. Everything gone. Yeah. And no matter what they try to do, they cannot, for intense efforts or prayers, Krishna, Radharani, the spiritual world is just not there within their meditation. Yeah. So at this point, devotees in a divine agony. And then he opens his eyes, and who does he see? What does he see when he opens his eyes?
Krishna.
Krishna, Radha, and Krishna. Yeah. Those very forms he's been meditating upon for let's say 40, 50, 60, 70 years.
Oh God, you have to wait that long, Murli Prabhu.
It's worth waiting for.
70 years, I don't know, he might be not alive.
Let's just say one example. Yeah, it's not a cheap thing.
Yeah, of course it isn't, yeah.
But still, as the stage of prema, it's not enough, the internal meditation. So then they open their eyes and they see Radha and Krishna before them. And normally if there's Radha and Krishna, there's a whole Vrindavan, the whole spiritual world is there. So then the devotee he erupts like a volcano of ecstatic bliss, and his tears literally bathing, the tears are bathing the feet of Radha and Krishna, yeah, with tears of love, yeah. So that is the ultimate, the devotees achieve the ultimate goal of life, yeah. Now once devotee, so the devotee is still in the material realm, this is not in the spiritual realm. Yeah. So this is called Shakshat Darshan, where the Krishna is directly appearing. Their minds at this point never return to the material realm. Their minds stay in that meditation. Yeah. So although they're physically in this world, although the physical bodies, it continues to reside in this world, just reading this part, in reality, they only appear to live here. They actually don't live here anymore. Yeah. So before they lived, I just read this, before they lived in this world and engaged the spiritual body in acts of perfection. Now they live in the perfect realm and engage the material body in service to the conditioned souls. Now, don't quite understand that. Let's read on.
Read that again. Okay.
Yeah,
Read it again. Yeah, can you please repeat it? Sorry.
Yeah, let's say, although their physical bodies continues to reside in this world, in reality, they only appear to live here. Before they lived in this world, they're living in this world, and they engaged the spiritual body, their internal meditation in acts of perfection. Now they live, now they live in the perfect realm and engage the material body. It's just in service to the conditioned souls. Anyone can make any comments to that. Perhaps just their being present acts as having their darshan of these perfected souls, acts in such a way to inspire. Perhaps we better move on.
Can I just
Yeah,
say
unless
something?
anyone could offer some. Yeah, please.
Yeah, Murli Prabhu, like what you said, that they're just staying in this world. I remember once we were in the airport and Bhakti Churu Maharaj was with Surti Dama and Prana Bandhu, and some devotee, I think one of the Prabhupada's disciple passed away, and I remember hearing this from my Guru Maharaj saying that I wish Prabhupada calls me as well, you know? So like, as you said, they wait. I mean, they've got this whole, what you explain, they've got that in them, but they're waiting when there's time for them to go back there.
Yeah. And that's Krishna's sweet will. Yeah.
Yes,
It's
definitely. Yeah.
That's Krishna's prerogative. A nice example of that. Sweet will. At some point, Krishna will call the devotee back. Yeah.
They just have to accept it and just got to follow the sadhana, you know, our chanting and
now, at this stage, you can imagine that there is nothing else that keeps their life together. You know, even most sumptuous, beautiful prashadam, you know, or any medicine. The only thing that keeps keeps their bodies and soul together is hearing and chanting about Krishna. Yeah.
So fortunate.
Yeah. So this a nice verse, an example of this that is a nice verse by the Gopis, which Tavakatam Vitam Tapta Jivanam. You know this verse? Kama Sapam Shavana Mangalam Srimad Atatam Bhuvi Karinanti Ye Puritahaja. You know, Bhakti True Swami Maharaj used to sing
favorite,
so sweetly. So this is a meditation of the Gopis. The nectar of your words and the description of your activities are the life and soul of those suffering in this material world. These narrations, transmitted by learned sages, eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly those who spread the message of Godhead are most munificent. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:31-9. So there's many wonderful aspects of this verse, but specifically here, I think where first part here, the nectar of your words and description are the life and soul of those suffering in this material world. So you could take that from a stage of perfection. Those are suffering from separation. Yeah. But also for conditioned souls, it also is relevant as well. Because we're suffering in this world by dint of the three modes of material nature, Adibautic, Adidevic, and Adhyatmic, and Adhyatmic. And our only medicine, actually, at the end of the day, the only vaccine, which is a popular word today, the only vaccine is to hear and chant about Krishna.
Chanting,
Yeah.
Krishna Prema.
Yeah. So then, hearing about Krishna, hearing about his companions, it's the same as being with Krishna personally. Yeah. And Marge mentions here, it becomes like an addictive. We can imagine, as we just explained, where a Shakshat Darshan, what state it leaves the devotee in. What a wonderful state. Yeah. So hearing about Krishna becomes, Marge describes it like it's an intoxicant that possesses a devotee. Yeah, that's the only thing that Prabhupada wanted in his last days, wasn't it? Harinam. Yeah. They had 24-hour kirtan. Yeah, just Harinam. Yeah.
And I think even Bhakti Taita Maharaj, his last day, he was leaving his body, he was with Radhanath Maharaj for 6 weeks as well.
Yeah. That's the one. Yes, quite an episode, that quite a dramatic episode.
It was, yeah.
Now then, is this Radha speaks to a bumblebee? It's the one verse here, Marge is included. To hear about the pastimes that Krishna regularly performs is nectar for the ears. This is Radharani speaking. To hear about the pastimes that Krishna regularly performs is nectar for the ears. For those who relish just a single drop of that nectar, even once, their dedication to material duality is ruined. Many such persons have suddenly given up their wretched homes and families, and themselves becoming wretched, traveled here to Vrindavan to wander about like birds begging for their living.
That's lovely. Come on, Chandravali, let's go now.
Let's go. Yeah, put on white saris, live with all the other.
No, Gopis don't wear white saris.
No.
You know, Gopis wear all colorful things.
Yeah.
No, but that's, remember, that we can't imitate that. We can't invoke. Remember, that's the Hajjas, Saki Bakers.
Well, I don't mind Murli Prabhu, whatever sari you want to wear. As far as I get that, yes, I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is that with white saris, or you have to have that mood.
I think we're going on a sidetrack here, but go on.
You have to be.
It's my fault. I started it.
Act in a proper way and not be joking all the time, not slapping brahmacharis, not messing around. And that's not me, is it? I need to get serious, then I can go into white. No, that's not me. Me is just too funny.
Anyway, perhaps that's the.
Perhaps this is Mangal's team somewhere along.
Perhaps this is not the forum for discussing that.
Yeah, I know. It's being funny, as usual.
Yeah.
So anyway, the main point. Let's get going. Yeah. So
back online.
Yeah.
I was going Prima way, and you put me on another track now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we were going there. Yeah, but that's really nice what you showed us. This bumblebee. Yeah, so nice.
Yeah. So this is we cannot. I mean, how is it possible for us to possibly understand the love that Radha feels? But here's this unmada. It's called Ummada. I mean, you can't see the bumblebee here. I think it's there somewhere.
It's called Unmada. Is it? Am I saying right?
Well, there's different descriptions of it. Unmada, like divine madness.
Yeah.
So anyway, Let me read here. Topics about Krishna are so nectarian that they are nectar even for his ears. Krishna Katamritam. Although he is the goal of the self-controlled yogis, when he hears about his own pastimes, Krishna cannot control himself, because his pastimes are always interwoven with pastimes with his beloved devotees. Yeah, it is a nice little sweet pastime that's related here. One time, Krishna was in the presence of the Gopis. Now he wanted to hear their talk, which is always about their pastimes. So he closed his eyes and he was pretending to sleep, and he was hearing the Gopis talk. I'll just read it. He listened as the Gopis described his fickle glances, witty talk, slow gait, eager embraces, and agitating smile. But when they spoke of their verbal duels with him, like for instance in Mukta Charita, disputes filled with loving exchanges, double meanings, and natural boyishness, Krishna couldn't restrain himself at this point, and a smile came to his lips, and a rise. So he was making out to be asleep, but at that time it was quite obvious.
But he was listening everything.
Then he wasn't. Found it difficult to hide that, and it caused his hairs to stand on end listening to these exchanges. This is Krishna Karanamrita. This is a pastime that's in Krishna Karanamrita by Bilva Mangala Thakur. Yeah, when Krishna leaves Vrindavan, the Vrajvasis followed him, but with their bodies without their minds, stayed in Braj, sustained only by chanting and hearing about him. So when Krishna goes for the calves and the cows, then the minds go with him. Yeah. Okay, so similarly, perfect devotees live only on Krishna Katha. That's the only thing that keeps them alive. When they complete their service in this world, they abandon the only obstacle to entering into Krishna's pastime. The only obstacle is the material body. That's the only obstacle. At one point, they happily drop their body. And then this is called sampatti-dasa. Yeah, that's the life's perfection, where you'd actually return back to reside at Krishna's lotus feet. Yeah, that's the ultimate limit. I mean, that is the goal. Sampatti-dasa, that's the perfection of prema, is to return back, never to be, it's described many times, never to be seen again in this material realm. Once having gone there, janma karma jami divyam. No one has ever returned. Yeah. Okay, so readers who desire to know more about this may read such books as Chaitanya, Siksamrita, Jai Vidama by Bhakti Thakur. Yeah. But then Maharaj says, otherwise, perfected devotees will receive direct training from Krishna's eternal associates, the Vrajvasis, in such a high elevated level of bhava going on to prema. One gets taught about love by the Vrajvasis. Okay, Hare Krishna. So that's hearing. That's devotees who love Krishna. This is what happens when they hear about Krishna. Ultimately, they return to Krishna. All right. So that ends chapter 29. Okay. So
can I just ask a little question?
Yeah, please. Yeah. Any questions or comments from anyone, or any reflections on what we just heard? Anyone there? Chandravali, you have something? Then if
Yes, I
anyone
was
else-
going to ask, like, say, when you're doing services, then you're not doing your reading, chanting as much as you would do. So how does that work?
Well, Raj describes the manifest, the meditation of advanced devotees, say in their Nam Bhajan, it actually grows, and that bhajan becomes not just when they sit down or whatever and they're doing specifics, well, not just when they sit down and doing their chanting, but it has such an impression on their heart that it manifests in everything they do, becomes an aspect of their bhajan. Yeah. So their meditation and chanting, then within, they're always 24 hours a day, even during sleep. No matter what they're doing, coming or going, no matter what they're doing, everything they're doing just enhances that bhajan. So it's not like it's not a separate thing. Like we may chant our rounds, and sometimes we may get into a nice meditation, and or we may not, or we may manage to meditate somewhat on the holy name or the Lord's lotus feet. But then japa's over, and we kind of forget that experience to one degree or another, because we're externally doing something else, we're in Sainsbury's at the checkout, and whatever. We're dealing with the children, we're dealing with the husband, and we may get. But as one advances in Nam Bhajan, the mood accompanies everything they do, becomes an aspect of their bhajan. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a long way to go now. Get to that
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
But every journey starts with a step, no?
Yeah.
Every journey starts. We are on the way. We are no longer going in the wrong direction. I was having a nice conversation with a devotee in Scotland who's making this point that, sometimes it may seem like when we speak about this, we may think, oh, wow, it seems so far away, I can't even relate to it. We may feel a bit discouraged, but no, we are in the right direction now. We are doing the right thing to obtain that at some point. We have turned our back on the wrong direction. We are now going in the right direction. Yeah, so. Anybody else on this before we begin chapter 30? Okay, so let's begin chapter 30. This is the last chapter. And then, as I've mentioned a couple of times, then the next two chapters is a story which shows the devotees going through all these different stages, a contemporary story. Yeah. So this is summary of hearing about Krishna. Now, I wish I'd put more time aside today to really study this and read over this. I had a couple of hours, hour and a half, and I realized when I started looking at this chapter again that, wow, this chapter is amazing. I need to spend more time on it, but I've got a few slides together, only 3 or 5 here, and there's more of it. Anyway, Hare Krishna. So, summary of hearing about Krishna, chapter 30. Now, the beginning of this chapter isn't a summary. Maharaj will speak on the principles of Mellows, and we describe what this picture of Raskudas has got to do with principles of Mellows. Yeah, that much we will cover today. Yeah. So first, Maharaj brings up as something that we've discussed, because we're discussing about rasa and mellows in the Nectar of Devotion reading. And we have mentioned more than once that what's going on there is going on here, but in a perverted in a contaminated way, because it's not focused on Krishna. It's very selfish. So in other words, all jivas are searching for bliss, yeah, from exchanges in this world, isn't it? If someone, you're going to, someone may be going to disco or to a restaurant or whatever, you're going with a Pacific friend and you want to taste a Pacific mellow, you want to be happy from that, yeah. Now, Maharaj then quotes, he mentions that Vaishnavacharyas, they quote from the Shruti. There's one verse, I'll just give the translation. He who understands the personality of Godhead, the reservoir of all pleasure. We have one nice pamphlet, isn't it, called the Reservoir of All Pleasure. It's a wonderful little pamphlet, spoken by Prabhupada, but compiled by his disciples. So if we understand that Krishna is a reservoir of all pleasure, he becomes truly transcendently blissful. Yeah. And then it's mentioned that we do have to, we're aspiring to be devotees, because say we are apprentices. Yeah. Now, we do have to have some knowledge of the workings of the principles of rasa. It will help us greatly. And we're doing that in Nectar. So this is, this beginning of this chapter is a bit of a crossover between Nectar of Devotion. Yeah. So, because what we're finding is that because we're reading Nectar of Devotion about rasa, then we can distinguish. Yeah, then we can know. And so, in other words, if we understand the constitutional pure rasa of the eternal associates, then we won't make the mistake of thinking the rasas here are all and everything. They're not. Because as we're hearing about the exchanges of the residents of the perfected souls, it becomes quite obvious that we've been shortchanged, isn't it? We've been cheated by the material energy. So we are not getting what the soul actually needs. We are getting a perverted, distant reflection. Yeah. So that's why it's good to go into this a bit. So Maharaj will give a summary, or before he speaks about this summary, he's going to describe about this subject, the principles of mellows. Okay. Everyone's with us here?
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. You can see a few nodding heads. And Hare Krishna. Vihai's with us. He's now not driving. He made it home safe. Hare Krishna. So this we've described. These are the main. Well, he mentions that there's 3 kinds of rasa or mellows. Yeah, there are 3 kinds of rasa or mellows. Now, the original spiritual mellow is one, and 2 material ones, which is sensual and emotional. Perhaps I should have put that up on the slide. So there's 3 kinds of rasa. One's the original rasa, and the other 2, which are material, are sensual, which is in regards to the body, and emotional, which is in regards to the false concept that we have of ourselves. Yeah. Now these are the material mellows. They are reflections of the spiritual. Okay. They're similar in both their ingredients and the way they function. Okay, so hold on. This probably Marge will describe, yeah, how that is so. Now this we described in chapter 19 in some detail about the ingredients of rasa and how they combine to form the spiritual mellow. So rasa is of, it consists of these here. See, let me just get this 1 second. Sorry, I'm just going to do some. Yeah, so this one here, oh, that's the wrong one. So I'm just, okay. So this one we've discussed, isn't it? The constitutional identity is known as Stehi. Yeah, that's that I think we understand, isn't it? Madhya Soda's constitutional Stehi Bhava is one of parental love. Yeah. Now, the cause of ecstasy, sometimes known as Udipan, is called Vibhava. So there's a cause, say, of Mother Yasoda's ecstasy. That's a Vibhava. Yeah. Now, from that Vibhava, certain symptoms will manifest. Yeah, that's called Anubhava, subsequent emotions. Now, from this Anubhava, there'll be further transformation of emotions. And remember, it was quite detailed, isn't it? Rupa Goswami gives pastimes to give examples of all of these in each of the different rasas. Remember, we was going through that?
Yeah.
Stehi Bhav,
Sattvika Bhava, yeah.
Vibhav in conjugal love, Anubhav in conjugal love. Then he describes Sakya Bhav, the Stehi Bhav, and the Vibhav, and the typical pastime and emotion and symptoms that manifest. So Sattvika Bhav. Then further, then there was more which then manifest. Yeah, Vyapachari Bhav. Okay. Now, just move something around here 1 second. Now, all these together. Okay, so I've just found this new thing I'm using. Sorry about this. Please, I'm just using a new thing here. So all these together, sorry, it's not such a good circle. This constitutes rasa. All these together is rasa. Okay. Now, then Raj gives an example. Perhaps this will help us to understand. So, now he gives an example of the material mellow and how it functions is found. So how the perverted material mellow of these here, Stehi Bhav, Vibhav, Anubhav, Sattvika Bhav, and Vyapachari Bhav. Okay, so the Stehi Bhav, let me just, again here, the Stehi Bhav is a person's natural attraction to a Rasgula. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever I think of Rasgula, I think of this man.
Yeah. And the Vibhava, the ecstasy that one experiences by tasting the Rasgula, that's the cause of attachment. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, the tongue, where that is experienced, is the tongue, ashraya. Yeah. One's attached to that sweetness. Yeah. And all the qualities of sweetness are subject to further attachment, or the subject of attachment. Follow that? Now, the particular qualities of the Rasgula, it's quite soft, isn't it? It may smell of roses, rose water. Yeah, so when someone sees this Rasgula, they see it, and that's Udipan. That will inspire them, that will inspire their attachment to the Rascula, isn't it? It's amazing when you, it's amazing that you can, so when prasad is being served, it doesn't take much for devotees to, for instance, say like a sabji comes round, and just by looking at it, if it looks really nice, devotees really excited. But if you see it's all burnt and not cooked very well, they won't feel so much ecstasy. So here, so the udipan is just by seeing the rasgula and imagining how soft it is, it's soaked in syrup, So that would inspire and enhance their attachment, the luster and aroma of the rasgula. Now they're going to start eating the rasgula. So then they will display symptoms of anubhava. Yeah. Maybe smiling, raising the eyebrows. Wow. So squeaky. And the emotions that come from that tasting, such joy, that's known as sattvika bhava. Yeah. Smiling, or joy. First is smiling, is the anubhav, and then the emotions such as joy and satisfaction, that's sattvika bhava. That's what Rupa Goswami is describing in the Nectar of Devotion. Yeah. Now, all these put together, they are reinforced by, for instance, the good fortune of having tasted such a rasgula. That's vyapachari bhav, further transformations. So interesting to help us to understand.
We did this, didn't we? We did this different bhava. Was it in Nectar of Devotion?
Yeah, it will be in Nectar Devotion. And we did it in Suddha Bhakti. We did it in chapter 19 of Suddha Bhakti Cintamani. That was some time ago. And we did it, and we are discussing, we did discuss it, we've gone through it in the Nectar of Devotion. Yeah. So, okay. Just read here. When initial attachment to the sweet is enhanced by these other factors, the person eating the sweet is said to be tasting the material sensual mellow. So again, this is just an example of the emotions that we go through here are actually reflections of the pure emotions in the spiritual world. Yeah. Now I'll just read here. The distinct characteristic of this sensual mellow, okay, it's to do with the body, is that there is only one type of relationship. That is between the senses and the sense object, between the tongue and, for instance, in this example, the rasgula. Okay. Now that's essential. Let me just get rid of this. Sorry, got to move some things around here. Okay, get rid of this. Sorry, Hare Krishna. So that's the sensual mellow. Now the emotional one is a bit more complex, because this involves the 4 types of relationships, which is from servitude to conjugal love. Yeah. Now the reason it's more complex, because the emotional one, rather than the bodily one, it takes place between people. Yeah, you follow that? The first one we described, the essential is between, say, the senses and the sense objects, but the more emotional one is actually different. Yeah, it's because it's between, it's exchanges of souls. Yeah. Now the thing is, both of these the sensual mellow, and the emotional mellows are all temporary, because they don't, because Krishna is not the object. So those, you know, those, for instance, those experiences that we have all had in regards to Krishna, you know, those special moments that we have in spiritual life where we're inspired, you know, that will only grow. It is not temporary, it is eternal. And that's spoken of in Nectar Devotion, isn't it? In described in beginning chapters. It's called Amrita, the devotional mellow. It doesn't end. But all these, the mellows are the sensual experiences, and the mellows in this world are all temporary, because Krishna's not the subject of it. Yeah. Now, what's the most intense emotional relationship in this world? It's between male and female. Yeah. Conjugal. Yeah. And within that, sex life itself is the most intense. Yeah. So Maharaj he mentions that here that that's what binds us, conditioned souls, and makes us slaves in the material world. Yeah. Now, this, as we mentioned, the spiritual mellow is eternal. Let me just read this part here. In vivid contrast, the spiritual mellow is eternal, for it resonates between the eternal soul and the eternal supreme being, Krishna. It displays 5 relationships, beginning with neutrality, and is the living entity's original mellow, the source of unparalleled bliss. Now, this picture here, I was looking on Fall from Grace, and I found this picture. This is a Christian concept of the soul falling from heaven. Seems like he's got wings here. Perhaps he becomes an angel first. That's their conception. Yeah. Now, living entities, that's a big subject, but living entities, they fall from this transcendental position when they want to replace Krishna, the original object of attraction, with mundane objects. So we think we can get higher pleasure as masters rather than as servants of Krishna. Yeah. So therefore, in the material world, everyone's trying to search for everlasting bliss, but they're never successful. I mean, how many songs are there written, isn't it? One song I used to listen to when I was younger, always searching for a heart of gold. Yeah. I won't mention the person who sang it. Some of you might know. Always searching. Another one was, I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
I think you found him.
Yeah. I still haven't
Standing in
found.
your temple.
Sorry?
He's standing in your temple.
I missed that.
You found him standing in the temple.
Yeah, found. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, it's Krishna. They found what we're looking for. But this is the quest of the conditioned soul in the material world.
I know.
Yeah, they're experiencing this rasa in relationship to things which are temporary. Yeah, because they wrongly thinking, they put Krishna. Yes, they want to be masters instead of servants. Yeah. And let me just see how much more notes here. Just a little time. 7. All right, perhaps we're pause there. Okay, on a bit of a cliffhanger. We can pick it up next week here. Yeah. And things do get more positive. Okay. Inclination we're hearing about this. We had heard like that. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any comment to finish with? Any reflections? Something which resonated with you for today's reading and discussion?
Well, I think the last chapter was lightning to me, but
Chapter 29.
yeah, at the end,
Yeah,
like prema and
yeah, it's nice to hear these things, isn't it?
definitely, yeah.
We
Because I've
might
read it
be,
before.
yeah,
Murli
we
Prabhu,
might
and
be
I've-
ways off,
yeah,
but it's nice to hear it.
and I think you're explaining it so nice. So it's but this one at the moment I'm not sure until, as you said, it'll clear more as we go by.
Yeah. So just for, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Well, it will become more clear. Marge is just describing about mellow and how we've got the reflective mellow here. Right. Okay.
Okay.
We'll
Thank
stop
you
there
so
for
much.
today. And tomorrow we have nectar of instruction.
I think, yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you, Murli Prabhu. He's great.
Krishna.
Murli Prabhu ki